Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Welcome, everybody, to the live stream, and thank you very much for being here, guys. I'm your host, Ashton Forbes, and if you've been living under a rock, if you haven't been following along, I'm going to be going on Tim Pool with Dr. Yu from NASA in a few weeks. And tonight, and for the next few live streams, we are going to be talking exclusively about science. Well, not entirely exclusively. There is one thing I want to show you guys that just came up earlier today, which is somebody found an image. Here it is, of a Lightning G4 pod underneath the wing of a C something or other, a C130 plane. This is exactly the camera that we've identified is recording one of the 2 MH370 videos. Looks perfect to me, and now I'm actually wondering once again whether or not when we're looking at the video, are we seeing the camera housing in the video, or are we seeing the wing? That is the pod. Guys, tonight we're talking about teleportation. And the camera that you just saw there is this camera right here. Right here. It might be that we're looking at the camera housing, but I still think that's the wing that we're seeing fixated right there on the top of this. Now, this video right here is the first ever public video proof of a non-local macroscopic event, a teleportation event happening. These orbs spinning around the plane must be doing some form of entanglement to this plane. What's amazing about watching it is how methodically and almost calmly, just slowly circling around the plane they're doing. And then within 30 seconds, they do this. And you see the orbs converge. And then the plane is just gone. It was there 1 second, and it's not there anymore. This is a what is the word I was looking for? Non-equilibrium quantum event occurring here. Is that we're having a type of physics event happen here that was in classical physics is not accurately explained. So let's just go to the slow-mo part here once again. Let's just watch this a couple times. Look at how the orbs seem to switch right there, right before that they come together. Tonight, I want to try to understand what all of this means and how this is all possible. Before I do that, I want to say that I'm having more ontological shock again. I'm all like, I read through the entire paper that I'm about to show you guys and review, and I came away with it absolutely certain that we can achieve faster than light communication, instantaneous transmission, and possibly even retrocausality. And I'm starting to wonder if they're letting me do this because they know I'm going to go down this rabbit hole and reach a point where, like, I'm already starting to wonder, like, I'm Cypher in the Matrix, you know what? I kind of just want the steak. Plug me back into the matrix. I don't really think I want to know anymore. I'm not sure I really want to know where this even leads. Because as I was reading this paper and thinking about the implications of retrocausality, I kept coming back to the idea of future humans. Because if you can send a message to the past, then you should be able to receive information from the future, which means you should be able to tamper with your past, theoretically. And it's pretty scary. So before we begin, what is entanglement? What is quantum entanglement? So some of those big brains back in the 1900s realized through the double slit experiment that there is some non-physical property to the universe. There are quantum connectedness, a connectedness that occurs beyond our perceptible level, in which measurements on one isolated system have a non-classical consequences for the outcome of a measurements performed in a different part of the system. So if you think about that, what that means is that non-classical implies there's no physical connection between these two things. But for some reason, when I do something over here, this is impacted over here. And this is what Einstein called spooky action at a distance. Why is that happening? Why is it that if I make it a measurement or change something over here, I can see an impact over here? Well, what is the answer to that, everybody? If you've been watching my streams, you already know the answer. How is that non-locality, is what they call it, non-local interaction, faster than light interaction? How is that possible? The answer, I think I saw somebody say it, everything is connected all the time. Everything is connected all the time. There is no distance. Distance is an illusion. And what this means is there is an ether. There is an ether, guys. There is an ether that connects all points in space and time. That is how all of this is possible. That's how I can change something over here and see an impact over here. Because there's an interconnectedness. Like if I were to take this box here, you could say this flat surface is our space-time. Well, what we're doing is we're making a thing like this, connecting this point and this point, like this. My hand represents the ether, the mechanism by which we can do this. End of the day, it's all just geometry. It's all just geometry. You know, we're connecting 2 points that we don't see as physically connected, but that they are connected. So let me pull up. I think I have double slit experiment. I don't know which of these is the best one to show. Let's do this one. Quantum physics. Is this one it? Hold on. Sorry, I have a bunch of double slit experiment videos. I'm trying to think of which one. Okay, let's show. Oh yeah, this is the one. Okay, got it. Quantum physics. So I want to show you guys, this is a good explainer video that I won't have to do. Quantum physics. So right off the bat, everything radiates at a unique energy signature. So this is a nod to Tesla, right? Energy, frequency, and waves. That's what Tesla said. And so what we've realized when you consider this idea of the ether is that you realize everything really is waves. And so therefore we can have these interactions, these wave-like interactions perturbating through this ether into different points in our space and time.
As mentioned earlier, everything is made up of infinite potentiality, and the moment consciousness decides to create from that, creation takes place. The findings of physicist Thomas Young in his famous double slit experiment helps to show this, and while doing so, sheds light on the quantum field and how our entire reality operates.
And here we are, the granddaddy of all quantum weirdness, the infamous double slit experiment.
Okay, here we
To
go.
understand this experiment, we first need to see how particles, or little balls of matter, act. If we randomly shoot a small object, say a marble, at the screen, we see a pattern on the back wall where they went through the slit and hit. Now, if we add a second slit, we would expect to see a second band duplicated to the right. Now, let's look at waves. The waves hit the slit and radiate out, striking the back wall with the most intensity directly in line with the slit. The line of brightness on the back screen shows that intensity. This is similar to the line the marbles make.
Okay, so you guys understand wave patterns, right? Wave pattern on the wall versus if you were to shoot particles at the wall. You're going to get two different patterns. Okay, now let's get to the fun part.
Something different happens. If the top of one wave meets the bottom of another wave, they cancel each other out.
Interference.
So now, there is an interference pattern on the back wall. Places where the two tops meet are the highest intensity, the bright lines, and where they cancel, there is nothing. So, when we throw things, that is, matter, through two slits, we get this, two bands of hits. And with waves, we get an interference pattern of many bands. Good so far. Now, let's go quantum. An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble.
Okay, so we're going to shoot electrons now through our slits, and we're going to see what happens. Spoiler alert, we're going to end up getting a wave pattern.
We should get, like the marbles, two bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. We get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How?
How, chat? How is it that when we shoot electrons through the slits, how are they acting like waves? Almost like they're not particles at all.
Big pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave. It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So, they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they could interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle.
The electrons must be waves. That is the only possible answer, right? Has to be. For there to be an interference pattern, they have to be going through both slits and interfering with themselves, constructive and destructive interference. That must be what's happening. So we know that.
But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. But physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both.
Wow. I was muted, but I just said wow, so no big deal. GTE says it's like Earth and Sun scenario. Through light from the sun takes 8 minutes. Though light takes 8 minutes to get us, you take the sun away and the Earth will know about it instantly. That is actually a really significant question related to whether or not gravity moves at the speed of light or not. I think we're going to find that it would actually move faster than the speed of light, but we'll see. So what happens? We have our electrons going through our two slits. They create an interference pattern, but then when we put a detector there, something that's just detecting which one they go through, the interference pattern breaks down. This is the biggest mystery in all of physics. Why does that happen? Why does that happen? This experiment, the reason why I showed that experiment is the double slit experiment is the key to understanding coherence and decoherence. It is the key to understanding how you can make something go from a deterministic point, it's right here, to it being in potentially multiple different locations at the same time. That's what the double slit experiment shows. And all of the faster than light communication methods are all based on the double slit experiment. All the apparatus configurations are all based on it. And they're based on the idea of turning something that is deterministic into something that is random. Something that is random. That's what they're based on. And honestly, the more I think about what I just said, the more insane and trippy it is. What does this actually mean? What we just saw right there. It is straight up, no two ways about it, magic. It's magic. How is that happening? Somehow the universe is reacting to another stimulus, the other stimulus being the measurement device. The measurement device is causing coherence to occur. It's causing coherence to occur. From a situation where the electron could be anywhere, decoherent, the electron appears at a single point. But if we were to shoot multiple electrons through, it's like each electron knows where the last electron was going to go and where the next electron is going to go. It's almost like each electron can see the future and knows where it needs to go end up. That's magic, guys. And that's what teleportation protocols are based on. Teleportation protocols are based on tricking the universe or converting something that's matter into a wave where now it can be anywhere. So what's the answer? What's the answer to the double slit experiment? Well, let's recap. Let's recap what we've learned so far. The answer to non-locality is the ether, is an extra dimension, right? Boop. I'm connecting these 2 points through an extra dimension known as my hand right here. That is the answer to non-locality. And so if I make a ripple, a disturbance in the medium, I can see interaction in other points in the medium. That's entanglement. I can do something over here, and weirdly, it impacts over here. So then what is the answer for why that changes? Well, any action I do to the medium is going to have a ripple in that medium. It's going to have an effect in that medium. I'm skipping ahead here, but one of the things that we're about to review in this scientific paper that we're going to look at here in just a minute is whether or not nature will allow retrocausality to occur. Will nature allow retrocausality to occur, or will nature correct for itself in some way, shape, or form? And I think that's the ultimate answer to why the wave function breaks down. We are seeing a property of nature that is magic. It's almost like an auto-correction mechanism. It's like we're seeing randomness and then we're saying, wait, how can that be random? I just threw one thing. Show me your magic trick. And the universe goes, nope, just kidding. Just kidding. Nope, I wasn't cheating. But you're like, no, I just saw you cheating a second ago. But now when I looked, you're not cheating anymore. The universe, I think the double slit experiment is the universe's auto-correction mechanism to prevent retrocausality from occurring. Retrocausality cannot occur because the wave function breaks down if you try. That's my theory. That's my thesis. So let's dig into this and let's see how close we get, chat. This was one of my favorite scientific papers I've ever read. And I'm kind of pissed off that the government's making me become a quantum physicist or whatever the hell is going on right now. Because holy crap, this is a lot of work. Maybe, in fact, this is proof. Like maybe I went into the future and made this happen and make me do this so that I would become a physicist in the future. Jesus, man. I really hope there's no retrocausality, because if so, like the rabbit hole layers go far deeper than I even want to go. Like Paul says right here. This is we're about to get really, we're going to borderline on the metaphysical, to be perfectly honest with you. And then consciousness can stimulate coherence and synchronicity for manifestation of best reality. Yes. What I will say, though, is that the Copenhagen interpretation is about to be annihilated, just completely annihilated. The idea that everything needs to be real, everything needs to be physical, everything needs to be a thing, that is, say goodbye to that. That is just donezo. We're going back to Tesla. Like, we're going so far away from everything being particles, we're going in the other direction. Everything is waves. Nothing is particles. I'm more in line with that than anything else. If anything is particles, it's the medium. We're in this medium. That can be the particles, like Dr. Yu said. But everything else is just waves. Thank you, Matt, for that cookie. Emerges from the forest at 8 minutes with a heart steel you are. I don't know what those words mean. Okay. Here is the scientific paper. I'm just going to pull it up real quick. Where did I put it? By the way, if we just skip to the end of this scientific paper, how ominous is the end right here? I'm going to read the end first, okay? Ultimately, the question of whether non-local communication is possible is an experimental one. The issue should be resolvable by testing for non-local communication and observing what experimental limits appear. In particular, are the limits of coherence and entanglement complementary, so severe, or complementarity so severe as to preclude signaling? Currently, at least one experiment in progress aims to produce a coincidence-free version of the ghost interference experiment. We await the outcome of such tests. Basically, it sounds like they're waiting to do a test to find out whether or not we can actually do retrocausality. It's like, well, does that test going to happen on a Boeing 777 that's bound for Beijing? I'm a little bit like, this is ominous as hell. Okay, guys, let's go to, I've got a bunch of notes here I took. Let me pull these up. Here we go. We're going to start with this one. Okay, how am I going to do this? Man. I actually have the most notes I've ever taken on a lesson for this. Hold on. Let's do like this. And it happened to be a sunny night too. Annoying. Okay, here we go. Let me hit this dono. Straight Dope says, keep up the good work, spreading the word. We're getting there slowly but surely. Okay. So what we want to know is, what is the causal connection for non-locality? What causes non-locality? The thing I explained, what causes that to happen? One sec, guys. Just decided it's going to be sunny tonight. Okay. What is the thing that causes non-locality to occur? We believe the ether. The ether must be the manifestation of it. Other people also think it's thought, but the Copenhagen interpretation would say that it's information that's being encoded. I think that's going to be going away. But we're getting to something that's more metaphysical than that. And what is entanglement if light is not a photon or a particle. This is what I love the most, guys. What if, when we think about entanglement, we're always thinking about this particle is connected to this particle. But what if that's not it at all? When you think of it as the ether, it's not that this particle is connected to this particle. What we're doing is we're creating a ripple in the medium. That's what entanglement is. I've created a ripple in the medium, and I'm seeing the two ends of the ripple. I'm just not seeing the pass through because it's in an extra dimension. And so what we're trying to figure out here from this paper as we go into it, what are we trying to figure out? We are trying to figure out, let me go back to this real quick. I'm going to pull this up. How do we produce entanglement? And yes, the person said longitudinal. Yes, longitudinal standing wave. That's what we're trying to produce. Produce a longitudinal standing wave. And are you producing a gravitational ripple? Are you producing a ripple in the ether? What are you producing exactly? What we just saw in the MH370 video is a gravitational ripple in the ether. That's why it looks like the plane is flying through a mirror. The reason why the plane looks like it's not there, just vanishes without disturbing the medium, is because it's blipping straight through the medium. It's a longitudinal wave, like a funnel. Like that thing went down a drain and it appeared somewhere else. It's literally one of these. Boom. So what we need to find out is, how do we rebuild the wave function? We know how to collapse it. We know how to collapse the wave function. That's easy. We look at it, make a measurement, the wave function will collapse. How do we rebuild it, though? Can we even rebuild it? Well, we know the answer is yes, because we just saw them teleport an airplane at the beginning of this live stream. The question is, how? That's what I want you guys to be thinking about as we dig into this. Now, one other thing that's really freaked me the hell out from this is, could this be used to clone people? Could you clone people with this? If retrocausality is possible, then you can clone people with this, because you just send yourself back information to the past, and now there's two of you. And which of you is even the real you, and are they both you at all? Anyway, guys, I really, really, really hope that retrocausality is not real. Because if retrocausality is not real, I don't have to worry about that. If retrocausality is real, then it's basically unavoidable that we can go back in time to some degree and potentially have body clones, maybe. I don't even know. Ooh, creepy, man. Ooh. Oh, God. Ooh. It would explain some of like the Joe Bidens and other people that like look like other weirdos, you know, maybe they just cloned them using some quantum teleportation thing, and then they became bizarro versions of themselves when they came out the other side. Oh, God. I don't even want to think about it, chat. Like, it's really freaking me out. Okay. Let's not think about bizarro Joe Bidens, and let's just go straight into the science. Oh, God damn. I'm not going to sleep tonight from that. Okay. So I decided to do this a little bit different. Instead of just pulling up the whole paper, I made a bunch of screenshots here, and I'm going to discuss some topics with you guys. So one of them is right in the introduction. This paper reviews quantum entanglement, non-locality, considers the possibility that this phenomenon could be used for sending observer-to-observer signals. So observer-to-observer signals is basically just communication, but it could also be like teleportation in theory. Such demonstration would break several quantum no-signal theorems. Non-local quantum signaling would have far-reaching implications as an enabling technology for superluminal and retrocausal signaling. So you could theoretically have faster-than-light communication, and you could also have going back in time communication as well. That's what that's saying right there. The applications of retrocausal signaling and real-time space communication are considered. Also considered briefly is the non-local communication implications of nonlinear quantum mechanics. That's a nice little tease at the end there. Guys, you know what nonlinear quantum mechanics is, chat? Who in the chat knows what that means? That is phase conjugation. That is phase conjugation they're talking about. Tom Bearden, gravity manipulation. Classically, if I have two waves that overlap perfectly, cancel each other out, we would say there's nothing there. They canceled each other out. The phases perfectly canceled each other out. There's nothing there. But in nonlinear quantum mechanics, it says there's actually something left over there, something very small that's left over. The stress in the medium, right? If I pull the rubber band equally on both sides, you would say there's no net force. But now just double it, triple it. Eventually, this rubber band's going to snap. So is there really no net force, or is there something else there when I pull equally on both sides? That is the nonlinear quantum effect. Nonlinear quantum mechanics. Okay. Next. I'm just going to close them. So, as I said before, quantum entanglement describes a condition of separated parts by the same quantum system where each of those parts can be described only by referencing the state of the other parts. This is one of the most counterintuitive aspects of quantum mechanics, because classically, one would expect the system of parts out of local contact to be completely independent. If two things are separated, they shouldn't be acting as one. Thus, entanglement represents a kind of quantum connectedness in which measurements on one isolated part have the non-classical consequences for the outcome performed on the other. We're literally talking about if I were to hit something right here, all of a sudden over there, I'm going to see a reaction. Okay, that's awesome. Non-locality was first highlighted by Albert Einstein, Boris Podolsky, and Nathan Rosen in their famous EPR paper. So when you want to know why I'm saying EPR, ER equals EPR, these are the guys. EPR, Einstein, Podolsky, Rosen. They argued that the non-local connectedness of quantum systems was unphysical in that it implied a faster-than-light connection in apparent conflict with special relativity. Despite their objection, quantum non-locality has now been demonstrated in many quantum systems, and the physics community is now generally acknowledged to be implicit in the quantum formalization as applied to the entangled systems, although there remain a few Copenhagen holdouts who would require an explicit demonstration of signaling before admitting that it can be considered a real effect. So basically, it's over for the quantum, the Copenhagen interpretation. Things aren't real, and we do have this weird non-local effect that occurs. Now, this is really interesting. Now, what does it actually mean, though? Like, if we have entangled two things, what does that mean? Well, okay, you've entangled them. So if I do something over here happens. But what is that something? Okay, here we go. What is that something? The quantum entanglement condition is usually a consequence of some conservation law acting within the system, so that the subsystems are connected by the conserved quantities. Yes! Guys, remember how my name's Ashton 4 orbs? Well, it might become Ashton 6 orbs. What have I been saying about the teleportation? There's an equal amount of charge on one side of the equation as the other. When we're entangling these things together, we're forcing them to come together because we're creating these entangled orbs. And on one side, we have 3 orbs spinning around the plane. And then on the other side, we either have 3 orbs spinning this way, or we just have 1 orb over here that's got, 3 times the charge. We're entangling these things together through space and time. How many of the orbs there are will determine what my new name is. Maybe I become Ashton 6 orbs. Maybe Ashton 7 orbs or 9 orbs. Who knows, chat? We're going to find out, though. For example, if 2 photons are emitted back-to-back in a joint state that has 0 angular momentum and positive parity, then whatever linear or circular polarization state one photon is measured to have, The other photon must have an identical polarization if measured in the same basis. So go ahead and measure your thing, and whatever's happening in one must also happen in the other location. So that if you were to add them up, they cancel out. That's how I look at it, at least. Maybe I'm saying that wrong. I think that's right, though. This condition must exist to ensure that the net angular momentum of the two photon states is zero. So add up the net angular momentum, got to be zero. I love science and physics because conservation is everywhere. Guys, why is the plane not being annihilated? Why is the plane not being annihilated in the MH370 videos? Because of conservation. Because of conservation. That energy has to go somewhere. That mass has to go somewhere. It didn't just disappear. It has to reappear somewhere else. And it didn't reappear as an explosion that destroyed the whole planet. So it probably reappeared in one single form. In this situation, the photons are measured for circular polarization. They must both be in states of right circular polarization or in states of left circular polarization, because linear polarization is a coherent superposition of circular polarization states. If measured in vertical or horizontal linear polarization basis, they must be, okay, blah, blah, blah. Basically, they got to be the same. Now, here's an example of one of the 1972 designs. And right off the bat, you can see they're basically shooting a beam here in the top right. Can you see the mouse? Oh, yeah, you can see the mouse. Cool. They're shooting a beam over here in the top right, splitting between two beam senders or whatever, and then they're going down these different paths, right? That's what usually the double slit experiment shows, and pretty much all versions of this show. So what are we doing is that we take our photon and we split it down two paths. That's the first step of what we do in any double slit type of experiment. When we're doing these non-local quantum experiments, we split it. They're entangled. And then we send them down different paths. Okay. And then usually what we do is we send this one down this path over here. And then we say, we're going to give it more choices. We're going to say it can go here, or it can actually go way over here to the other path that was already decided. So we give it like 3 choices, and we say, now, this photon, you're going to pick one of these directions. And I don't care which direction, whichever direction you want to go. And we do that. And when you do that, you rebuild the wave function. Remember the double slit experiment that we just looked at? The interference pattern comes back. So you go from having this photon that got separated out by itself, where we're watching this photon, and then we send it through another beam splitter that splits it into 3 random directions. And then we look at the patterns on the detectors, and we go, whoa, there's an interference pattern there now. There wasn't an interference pattern before, but now there is. What did we do? We created decoherence. We created decoherence. The electron was coherent when it was flowing, or the photon was coherent when it was flowing through, and then we gave it random directions and we made it decoherent. In fact, I want to make another claim here. I think I was right in my first letter to letter to Congress in October of 2023. I said that what we were looking at was macroscopic quantum decoherence. And I ended up flipping and saying, no, it's macroscopic quantum coherence. It's actually both. The plane is becoming decoherent, macroscopic phase conjugation. The plane is becoming a wave. And then it's decoherent. It's teleporting through the ether to the other side. And it's becoming coherent again. Pretty incredible. So, does non-locality violate special relativity? Special relativity, saying that we can't go back in time. Einstein and relativity was the best thing Einstein ever came up with. Shows that time is a dial. The answer is no. Non-locality does not violate special relativity. The prohibition of signals with superluminal speeds by Einstein's theory of special relativity is related to the fact that the definite simultaneity of two separated space-time points is not Lorentz invariant. Since some hypothetical superluminal signal could be used to establish a fixed simultaneity between two points, for example, by clock synchronization, this would imply a preferred inertial frame and would be inconsistent with Lorentz invariance and special relativity. In other words, it would be inconsistent with the even-handed treatment of all inertial reference frames in special relativity. So, the problem is this. Special relativity says you can't make a permanent connection between this point and this point that's super far away. Because if you do that, reality breaks down. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. So you cannot cheat, is what special relativity says. It says you can't make a permanent connection between like my hand right here and Zeta Reticuli over here. Because if I had a permanent connection between these 2 points, I can do weird time travel stuff that we're not gonna be able to reconcile. Too many paradoxes. That's actually really cool. So the author is saying, and I think Eric Davis wrote this, by the way. Eric Davis, I think, wrote this paper. I could be wrong. The author is saying that special relativity doesn't allow us to have a fixed point between two locations. But, however, if a non-local signal could be transmitted through measurements at separated locations performed on two entangled photons, the signal would be sent at the time of the arrival of the photon in one location and received at the time of arrival in the other photon. By varying the path lengths to the two locations, these events could be made to occur in any order and time separation in any reference frame. Wow. What that's saying right there is that you can manipulate the experiment, that the quantum entanglement experiment that I showed, and just add path length. All you have to do is add path length, make the light go a further distance, and just mathematically, you can show that the signal should arrive before it was even sent. Don't worry, I'm going to show you the math here in a little bit. I think one of these screenshots has it. Wow. And I'm going to show you the schematic and the setup of it here as well. Therefore, non-local signals could not be used to establish a fixed simultaneity between a relation between two separated space and points, because the sending and receiving of such signals do not have fixed time relations. The transmission and arrival instance of a non-local signal cannot be used for synchronization, because the transmission and reception instance are path and delay dependent variables. Holy shit. This paper is fucking amazing. What is it saying right there? You can't make a permanent faster than light connection. You can't have a permanent one. Why? Because this point and this point don't have fixed time intervals. There's nothing to tie them together in space-time. But you can create a temporary transition. You can create a temporary transition, just not a permanent one. We are definitely, no question, no doubt, in the MH370 videos, no question, looking at the Air Force and the Defense Intelligence Agency. We're looking at Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis's handiwork. No question. The reason why we're not watching the plane go through like a hypergate or whatever the hell, like a big gate or a portal, is because you can't, this paper says straight up, you can't make a Stargate like this, at least not right now. They didn't have the technology to do it. But they did know that you could make a blip. They did know that you could blip something from one location to the next. And now people are going to start wondering, okay, are you saying that they sent MH370 to the past? Are you saying they sent MH370 to the future? Are you saying that MH370 is lost in space and time? Yes and no. Long story short, I don't know. Anybody that tells you that they know is probably a liar, or they've seen the other side of those videos where the plane comes out. Chat, I've never wanted to know, to see the other side of the where that plane came out more than I've wanted today. The answer to everything that we're reviewing today, to all these questions about what happens, is in those videos on the other side. And you better be damn sure they recorded the other side. They have video of the other side. You don't do an experiment like that, a test like that, a whatever, a message like that, without recording the other side too. They were recording that because they wanted to see what was going to happen. They wanted to know, is that plane going to show up in the future? Is it going to show up in the past? Does our teleportation protocol that we developed work? Because I guarantee you they developed a teleportation protocol, 100%. China's probably trying to steal it right now, to be honest with you. Okay. God, man, this one right here, like, when I read this, I just sitting there going, everything's a lie. Like, what is happening? Just, wow. Right there, chat, the dirds. So here's an example of the double slit experiment here. This isn't really one of the better ones. The reason why I actually took this screenshot is that it explained coherence. It should be clear that a point-like source has perfect coherence. That is why I took this screenshot. That is such it's like a small thing that's thrown in there, but it's so important. When we talk about entanglement, we have to talk about coherence. We talk about in terms of coherence. Are you coherent? If you're coherent, you are physically here in our reality, and I'm looking at you. If you're decoherent, then you're a wave function, and you could be anywhere. And now, like, my mind was reeling when I read that. Why? Because I just can't stop thinking about coherent matter wave beams.
My colleague, Dr. Han, and myself, is really Mo's idea, but I helped him with that. This is a way of generating.
Chat, look in the bottom right figure. Look at the bottom right figure. That's coherence. Look at that peak. That's the Aharonov-Bohm effect. When he's talking about the Aharonov-Bohm effect, he's talking about creating a blip in the ether, just like we're talking about in this faster light communication, just like we're talking about with teleportation. This patent, those orbs are Lockheed Martin orbs, chat. Those orbs are Lockheed Martin orbs. They used a coherent matter wave beam. That's the design.
Matter wave beam. So rather than a laser beam, it's a matter beam with fermions. And we're using the Aharonov-Bohm effect to put fermions in coherence, which sounds like, wow, that doesn't sound like that would work. Because you can modify the fermions with no energy exchange. And so we predict that we'll be able to put those incoherent and generate a beam. And people have done those with Bose-Einstein condensates, at very low temperature. But using one of those constraints, Lorentz invariance, well, that fermion condensate is a beam in a different reference frame. So in my mind, that shows you can build a beam out of fermions, a million times more powerful than a laser, plus atomic scale manufacturing, and maybe transport of matter over a distance.
Charles Chase, you son of a bitch, I'm in. You son of a bitch, I'm in. Chat, sign me up. CIA, sign me up. Air Force, where do I sign? Get me involved. I want to be in on the orbs. I don't give a shit what it takes. Get me in on the orbs. Look, either get me in on the orbs, or I'm just going to teach China, Iran, and every other country in the world how to make them, how to teleport shit. If you haven't figured out that I'm going to figure out every single thing about these videos, the orbs, the teleportation protocol, free energy, literally everything yet, then boy, you have been underestimating me. Yeah, we're going to figure it all out. And it's either going to be behind closed doors, or it's going to be on live streams on Kick and YouTube, Rumble, and X for the whole world. So No question, no doubt, coherent matter wave beam. What did he say right there at the end as well? This is my favorite part.
Reference frame. So
the reference frames, chat. What is he talking about? Reference frames, chat. What's he talking about? He's talking about general relativity. He's talking about Einstein. He's saying that, well, if you look at it from a different perspective, from a different reference frame, you actually theoretically can allow fermions to collapse down onto a single point. It is actually allowed from Einstein's general relativity.
variance, well, that fermion condensate is a beam in a different reference frame. So in my mind, that shows you can build a beam out of fermions, a million times more powerful than a laser, plus atomic scale manufacturing and maybe transport of matter over a distance.
Transporting matter over a distance. Transporting matter over a distance using the Ehrenhoff-Bohm effect, chat. What does that mean? That means literally teleporting stuff. Like literally, I'm going to transport the matter from here, bloop, and it's going to appear, bloop, over here. And atomic scale manufacturing. Guys, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Whatever microchips we have in the public, Lockheed Martin's already got perfect 3D printing, like atomic scale 3D printing. If you've got a coherent matter wave beam patent, you can just make an ice cream machine that is literally shooting whatever element you want at the atomic scale onto your microchip. This is like, we're already at Star Trek replicator level kind of stuff. So, yeah. So if anybody wants to steal the technology, like go hit up Lockheed Martin. They definitely have it. Like, no question, they have it. Next page. Why is this one all zoomed in? Okay. I think I might need to pull up the thing here. Let me see. Let's switch back over. I want to show the experimental setup for this one. Okay, where is it? Okay. Holy shit, chat. It's about to be Yahtzee time. Okay, this is one of the configurations that they set up. These are all basically the same type of thing. Okay, so you are polarizing your splitter here. You've got this splitter. So the splitter is going to send photon one direction, sends a photon another direction. So essentially what we begin with is we say, okay, I'm going to take these two photons. I'm going to send this one, this one, this one, this way. And so when you say, Ashton, why is your name 4 orbs? Well, because it's not just those 3 orbs. They've entangled those orbs to something else that they sent in another direction. Is it 3 orbs, 1 orb? Who knows? I think I'm just going to read it here now. But take a look at this part on the left here. This part where it says S2 image slits, and then you see these 2 S slits, and it says switch right here. There's a switch. And then you see this little circle that says C over here. So keep this in your mind over here on the left, okay? And then I'm going to read off this other part. Okay. Therefore, from the point of view of the transactional interpretation of quantum mechanics, the non-local connection between detection events at the 2 ends of the experiment arises because the detection transactions for the 2 entangled photons must share a 2-way handshake at the nonlinear crystal. Actually, I don't know if this was the right thing. A condition that can be realized only when the summed vector momentum of the 2 photons equals that of the pump laser photon that created them. Yeah, I showed you the wrong thing. That's okay, though. This view explains Doppler's observation and indicates that in the absence of overwhelming noise or restrictions imposed by coherence and entanglement, no coincidence should be required between the 2 detectors in the experiment to observe that a change in the pattern observed at D1 when detector D2 is moved. Okay, what is this saying right here? It's saying that one of the experiments that happened was they were trying to determine, is it the detectors that are creating the entanglement? So, okay, I shoot a laser. Does the laser create the entanglement? No. The entanglement seems to be a property of nature itself. Now, that's not a problem for us. In the Copenhagen interpretation, it sucks because they need particles. They need light to be these little particles. So they need the entanglement to be getting produced at the time in which it's emitted. Like if I shoot a beam, if I shoot a light out, they're saying, okay, the light needs to be entangled the moment it's shot out. It's not. We can entangle the light at any point in the process. That is huge. Why? Because it opens the door to producing entanglement as a resource. So while this seems small, it's actually really, really huge. The photons are not being entangled by the source. It's a property of nature that we can use to entangle them. So it says this remains true in the configurations discussed below when slit S2 is lengthened with many kilometers of fiber optic light transmission cable to enable superluminal and retrocausal signaling transmission. In other words, analysis of the non-local communication test system with the transactional interpretation reveals no showstopper aspects that would prevent superluminal and retrocausal signal transmission. This was actually reminding me, I took some notes here that I skipped past that I wanted to touch on here. So let me see what I've got. So Leggett won the Nobel Prize for falsifying the idea that entanglement is produced when it's emitted. And then therefore non-locality is based on the ether, not based on some particles that are being connected. And it's going to be very difficult. Pay close attention to this part. One of the things the paper says, I don't have a screenshot of, is it's going to be very difficult to make a faster than light communication system because you can't control the polarization basis. So it'll just look random on the receiving end. Now, that's a really interesting thought. So yes, we have two entangled particles. This one over here and this one over here. And whatever we do to this particle is going to happen to this particle over here. But we can't control what happens to the first particle. If we mess with it, we don't know if that's going to move it to the left. We don't know what it's going to do to it. It's completely random. So the problem is, on the receiving end, everything's just going to look random to us. On the receiving end, we don't know what we're looking for. So if we don't know what we're looking for, then how do we create a communication system? So we've shown, yes, there definitely is this non-locality. The ether is causing this non-locality to occur. But now how do I control it? Good news, chat. The paper has the answer to it. I'm glad I went to my notes before I went back to that, because now this is going to build up the suspense. But before we do that, the no signal theorem is actually circular reasoning. The no signal theorem basically says that you cannot send a communication faster than the speed of light. But since the signaling is non-local, the theorem doesn't even make sense. It's just a circular argument. The theory that you can't go faster than the speed of light is based on the Copenhagen interpretation of everything being particles. It's based on the assumption that non-locality is not real. But non-locality is proven to be real. So the no signal theorem, just throw it right out the window. It's already dead on arrival. And retrocausality is actually extremely likely. Retrocausality is extremely likely, chat. The more I dug into this, what they said about lengthening the path length, it's absolutely correct. Retrocausality, according to the math, according to the experiment, should be possible. So if you go back to about a year ago, I think, where I did the review of the retrocausality delayed choice quantum eraser experiment, I've been thinking about that for the last year. And my interpretation was correct of that. This paper actually proves me correct. If you go back to that, I said, I went against the grain. I went against Sabine Hossenfelder. I went against the other YouTube people saying the delayed choice quantum eraser has been debunked. And I did a deep dive on it. And I showed that you can actually interpret which path the photon went down based on looking at the entangled pair. You can actually do it. And I said this on live stream. And this scientific paper, the one we are looking at right now, says that yes, you can do that. And it would only take 100 photons before you would have a pattern that you could distinguish. You can't do it with just one photon. One photon's not enough information. 100 photons, which is almost nothing, is enough information to determine the path of an object that you don't even know where it went. Think about that. You can use retrocausal signaling. I can look at something, and within 100 photons, a fraction of a second, I can tell where something's going to appear over here. I can see the future. This is now the basis for teleportation as well. Because now I can say, well, I want the plane to show up over there. Maybe I can interact with it. Maybe I can cause it to occur. Oh, wait, that's the wrong one. Go back to this. These DIRDs, the Defense Intelligence Reference Documents, they are the best, the most important papers in scientific history. Before all of this, we were not even close. The public was not even close to figuring this out. Like, they're probably letting me do this because of how embarrassingly bad the public has been at figuring this out. Like, the fact that I'm just sitting here thinking that Sabine Hossenfelder was 100% wrong about retrocausality. This paper just literally lays it out flat. There's no denying it. I mean, just really goes to show you how even some of the smartest minds in the physics community have completely missed the mark. And this is why we haven't figured any of this stuff out. Because when you really boil it down to it, no offense to those people, but they're not really putting in the work. They're not putting in the work, right? They've got it on Easy Street, and they've been working on Easy Street. They're not putting the work in. They're not reading the papers. They're basically just giving their opinions on things without really reading into it in many cases. People get lazy. And then when you challenge them, they go, how dare you challenge me? I'm a PhD, and I wrote 10 papers that were co-authored by famous people, right? And then you go, but you didn't actually do any research. And you go, it doesn't matter because I'm famous, and I know people. Every time, chat. Every time. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Where's my pump wave part? Hold on. Pump waves. And I want to say a few more things actually as well before we get back to that, which is it's not that the government has different physics. They're just much more advanced in understanding the applications of the physics. So they've understood that there is this scalar potential. They've understood that when two waves phase conjugate and cancel out, there is still this quantum inequality left over. Hopefully that's the right way to phrase it. So what did they do? How did they figure out this problem? Let me see if this is the right one. Let me see where I've got it. Okay, here it is. They created a switch. That's what they did. They created a switch. I'm weirdly not able to find the thing I was looking for here, so I'm just going to go to the paper and find it. So what you see over here is a switch. Where was the part I wanted? Yeah, here we go. So in this image right here, let me pull this up here. I'm going to make this nice and big. This isn't it. They gave two case examples. For the non-local communication test system described above, there's two cases. Case one is when the switch is positioned so that each fiber from the slits is routed to one detector producing which way measurement of the slit through which the VLP photon passed. In this case, the HLP photon as directed by the camera, should have a recorded position that falls into a broad single slit diffraction pattern. So this is the case where you're going to have a one slit pattern. And that's this one down here at the bottom. So what's happening is the message is being transmitted, I believe, through S2, through the one slit. It hits our switch. It bounces back. And when it bounces back, then it creates a single diffraction pattern. So coherent. The second example is the one that produces our two slit interference pattern. So by manipulating this switch configuration that they've got over here on the left, and they've got a combiner over here. So they're basically forcing the paths of this light back and forth, together, not together, randomizing them essentially. They've figured out how they can control what pattern you're going to get. So it looks like they figured out how to flip a switch on or off. So you can either turn the coherence on or off. On, off, on, off. Wow. Okay. Holy shit. I didn't think they were just going to have an answer, because just a second ago I said, wait, there's no way to send a message with this. There's no way to functionally use this because, yes, we have entanglement, but you don't know what you're looking for. And you know what they said? Yeah, we know what we're looking for. We're looking for coherence or decoherence. So what if we just turn something decoherent, boom, turn it into a wave pattern, and then we hit a switch, boom, and now it's coherent. So this is essentially like turning on or off the detector, right? The same way where we're looking at the wave pattern and we turn the detector on and the wave function collapses. They've now created a switch, a transistor, yes, that turns it back on. They've created a switch that turns the wave function on or off. That's exactly what we were looking for. That was exactly what we were looking for. And this just once again shows that the videos are real, because every time we go looking for something, we just find it. Boom. They created a switch that they can just turn the coherence on or off. Wow. And here's the second version of it right here. I'll make it nice and big for you guys to see. And you can see in this one, you can see the interference pattern. Compared to the first one, look at the first one. First one, no interference pattern. They create a switch. Boom, boom. And so then that was the paragraph that I was showing down there. And now here's the other one. I think I'll just go use this from now on, actually. Gonna make this a little bit bigger. So in particular, the send instant could be made to occur well after the receive instant in the system, constituting a direct demonstration of retrocausal signaling. This is shown in figure 10 right down here. Here, the cleanup two-slit system, S2, that's the one here in the middle, becomes the entrance for the two 10-kilometer-long runs of fiber optics that are carefully matched to have identical exit phases at S3 down here. The end of the fiber runs where the light enters the optical switching arrangement described above. If the index of refraction of the fiber is 1.5, light transiting the 10-kilometer path is about 10, what is that, microseconds or something? I don't know, pico, whatever U is. In presence of detection noise or degradation of pattern visibility because of compromises between entanglement and coherence, considerably more photon detection events, say at 100, might be required. So right here, what it's saying is what I just said, is that in order to figure out what the future is going to do, we might need 100 detection events. So you can't figure out what the pattern is going to look like with just one detection event. But with 100 detections, you can start to see the pattern. So it's like one dot on the screen doesn't tell me what the picture shows. But 100 dots on the screen, now I know it's a dog. Now I know it's an airplane being teleported through the sky. That's what they're saying right there. And you can see they're imagining 10 kilometers here of adding this. So they created a closed system that actually causes retrocausality to occur. And then they say here that, oh, well, it turns out that from the experiments these people were doing, from the ghost interference experiment, the entangled photon pair rate was only 1 in 10 to the 10 photons. So the rate in which they were producing entangled photons from the experiments was super low, practically nothing. I mean, look at that ratio, 1 to 1 in the 10. Is there a solution for that? Of course there is. Fortunately, a recently emerging technology makes the production of entangled photon pairs much more efficient through the use of periodically pulled nonlinear crystals. In bulk nonlinear crystal, there is a walkout phenomenon that limits the distance within the crystal over which phase matching holds, permitting entangled pairs to be produced efficiently by top-down conversion. However, nonlinear crystals like potassium titanyl phosphate have very large nonlinear coefficients and are also ferroelectric. Ferroelectric with a large electric dipole moment, dipole positive minus. By using a large pulsed electric field during crystal production, one can write onto the crystals to change the orientation of their dipole moment over small distances, periodically along the pump direction through the crystal, so that the phase drift regularly reverses and cancels out as the pump radiation process progresses through the crystal. This is called periodic polling. With this kind of crystal, the walkout is suppressed, and one can use very long crystals that efficiently produce entangled pairs of photons over their entire length. So this group out of Vienna has measured entangled production at a super high rate. So now here's the math. Considering that these detectors are only separated by a meter, if the switch is set to the 0 or 1 position, the message that is in the position begins to arrive at the camera 50 whatever seconds before the switch is moved. If 100 photon counts constitute a signal, we need 100 photons to tell what the picture looks like, then even allowing for the latency in signal reception, the message could be received 40 US before it was sent. This would be a direct demonstration of retrocausal signaling using non-local communication and would constitute a direct violation of causality. So, right there, straight up says, the math says, even if you need 100 photons, you're still going to be able to have retrocausality. And spoiler alert, oh, that's micro? Thank you, that's micro. Spoiler alert, if you extend that distance, you can extend the path even further. Extend the path even further, and you could have retrocausality of like 40 seconds, not 40 microseconds, 40 seconds. For anyone in the chat who's confused, this science is 100% real, 1000%. This science is more real than anything you're going to get at PhD as a master's or PhD in university. 100% guaranteed. So the question is, what about paradoxes then? If we can send information to the past, then are we going to hit a paradox? It's called a bilking paradox. And now look who gets referenced right here. There are discussions of such bilking paradoxes in the physics literature by Wheeler and Feynman. Wheeler and Feynman were the ones considering this? Okay, now you've got it. Like, those are like, they're like, guys, if we're in like one of the Wakanda movies or whatever, right? Marvel movies, and I'm speaking to my spirit ancestors, right? I just drank the special magic powers that makes me a superhero, and now I'm in my state of stupor, and I wake up and I'm in the spirit land. I got Richard Feynman, John Archibald Wheeler right there. I probably got Paul Sizz there, Tom Bearden, Tesla's probably in the back. Einstein's like in the corner giving me shifty eyes. And boom, guys, please teach me. Is teleportation possible? Can we go to the past? Are we stuck in the present? Please tell me, spirit guides, what is the answer to the physics? Well, what did they think? They were all considering paradox. The general consensus of both groups is that nature will forbid it and will require a consistent set of conditions. Wow. They thought it wouldn't be possible. They thought nature is going to say, nope, it just can't happen. You know what's so crazy about that? That's what I thought too. That's what I still think. That's what, if you go back, I said, I think I'm going to be wrong about this, but I don't think there's any way we're going to be able to go back in time. We're not going to actually be able to physically go back in time, because if that was possible, it should have already happened. We should be seeing that effects. But then I go, well, wait, what's all that UFO phenomenon all about? So there's a chance that we are seeing it, but I still genuinely agree. I think that nature is going to find a way to forbid it. Nature's going to find a way to forbid it. So let's dig into that. The other issue raised by the retrocausal signal, it might be called the Immaculate Conception paradox. Now, this is weird because it reminds me of Immaculate Constellation. Remember the Immaculate Constellation, the videos they have apparently? Well, here you go, Immaculate Conception. And this is the idea that this is so crazy. Get ready for this. We can create information out of nothing. If this is real, we could create information out of nothing, because if you could go back in time, you could send a manuscript to the past. And I could send it to myself and I could publish the manuscript, make a bunch of money. Like, let's say I go send these videos, send the MH370 videos to myself in the past. And then we would find out, well, like, who created the manuscript? Turns out nobody created the manuscript, because the time-like loop has me constantly giving myself the manuscript or constantly giving myself the videos. Like, maybe I'm the one. Maybe Ashley Berlitz or whatever. I think that's the person who first posted the MH370 videos. Maybe Ashley Berlitz is me. Maybe I posted the MH370s in the future back retrocausally, and then for myself to see them in the past, that would create a time-like loop. And then when I get older, I realize this occurred, and I realize that I have to go send the videos to the past to cause the loop to continue. This would be a deterministic viewpoint of reality. Deterministic meaning that whatever happened always has to happen and must continue to happen for the timeline loop to be continuous. Ouroboros, as John Snowden says. Exactly. That's my personal philosophy. I don't know. It's not really necessarily accurate, because as this paper even says, we can't know the answer to this until we test it. We have to just test it. That's the only way we're going to figure it out. So then it basically says that superluminal communication without paradoxes. So here's the reason why I know this paper is so incredible is you would never see something like this if this person was just speculating. The next thing is, okay, you know what? Don't even worry about the paradoxes. We're just going to create a situation where we don't have to worry about the paradoxes at all. What? Yeah, that's genius. So like, hey, what about all these paradoxes? Okay, you know what? Just don't make your system have a paradox in it. Just don't make your system retrocausal. You just told me that you can change the path lengths to anything you want. Change the path lengths so that the system is just perfectly faster than light. Like literally the exact speed of light. Wow. Holy shit. Yeah, you guys in the chat who are going, what? I've been reeling after reading this paper because I'm going, they've solved it all. They've made switches for switching on and off the coherence and decoherence. And then when I thought our biggest problem was, well, how do we solve retrocausality? They go, don't even worry about it. Like the answer to solving retrocausality is just don't make your system retrocausal. And so this is kind of confusing to like read and explain. But if you look at the math, basically there's 3 different variables. And so as long as you don't play around with the time variable, you're good. Just don't play around with the time variable. Just don't try to go to the past. As long as the non-local communication system is arranged so that the space-time interval between the sender and the receiver is always separated by a space-like or light-like interval, and in particular, never separated by a time-like interval that can go backwards down the time stream, then time-like loops are avoided, along with the paradoxes they imply. What? Holy shit, chat. They created a teleportation protocol that they know works to teleport the airplane from one location to another. And they know exactly where that plane was going to show up. Every bit of that was calculated. Every bit of it. I think they created this non-retrocausal, closed-looped teleportation protocol. It's not retrocausal because they built it to not be retrocausal because they're controlling the sending and receiving points. Holy shit, man. And they're using this coherent matter wave beam technology from Lockheed Martin. It's got to be Lockheed Martin orbs. It just has to be, man. Yeah, we need, guys, I want those videos, man. If somebody's out there, some white hat, get me that damn video, chat. Get me that damn video. If I see the video on the other side, we will literally solve physics. Solve physics. We'll get the answer to retrocausality. Although I think that what happened is going to be instant transmission. So here's the thing. So the way you get around retrocausality is you just make instant transmission. Goku, baby. It's Goku. He can just teleport wherever he wants. You don't go to the past. You design the system for it to be never faster than instant transmission. So the fastest you design the system to go is that you go from here to here instantaneously. And as long as you do that, no paradoxes. No paradoxes, no problems with time. Everything just works out fine. And weirdly, you can go to the future and there's no problem. You can go to the future and there's no problem at all. So they could have shown up in the future when that plane got teleported, or it could be instant transmission. My impression is they were doing instant transmission and maybe it didn't work exactly as they wanted, but we'll see. And then here's the one that I was showing before, which is that figure 11 shows one of these systems. Entangled photons in the 2 arms of the system are propagated through fiber optic cables of equal length. Therefore, in the reference frame of the system, the send and receive events are simultaneous. And aside from the latency associated with the reception of enough photons to establish the reception, the communication is instantaneous, but does not create a time-like loop. Yahtzee! Yeah, they fucking did it, chat. They fucking created teleportation. Jesus Christ, man. Sometimes I just sit here and I just go, what the hell, man? If this is the Truman Show and all of you are in it and you're all pranking me and I'm like the reality show heel or whatever the hell is going on, you've got to tell me. You have to tell me if this is all a big Truman Show and you're all in on it, okay? Because it's either that or it's all real. We're just at that point. It's either that or it's all real. There's no way that this paper can exist. This paper is from 2010. This paper is from 2010. Thank you. Okay. I'm not in a Truman Show. I appreciate it. I don't think I'm special either. That's why I go, it must just be real then, chat. It must just be real because I'm not special and this ain't the Truman Show. So then it explains this Mars rover control, which is really cool. I explained this the other day, but I'll explain it real quick for you guys. So what you could do with this then, with this instant transmission, you could actually control a rover on Mars from Earth in real time. Normally you say, wait, can't you always control the rover in real time? No, because the speed of light in the distance, there's a delay. I don't remember what the delay is, but there's a delay. So there's a lag. So this system can make lag go away. Zero lag. The only lag that would exist is for how many photons it requires to achieve the signal. So the 100 photons or whatever it is, that's the only limitation of the lag. So in theory, people are saying 6 to 20 minutes. Sure. Let's just go. Let's cut them in. Let's say it's 10 minutes. So normally you would just send commands to the Mars rover, and then 10 minutes later, the Mars rover is going to move around. With this, you can be watching on a screen, moving the Mars rover around in real time. That's what this can do. Ehrenhoff-Bohm effect, baby. Get used to it, chat. Why is this all possible? Because of 0-point energy. ZPE disclosure 2025, chat. Space-time is made up of 0-point energy. That 0-point energy gives space-time its structure. It connects all points in space and time. All points in space and time are connected. Free energy is possible. Faster light communication possible. Teleportation is possible. And oh God, do I sure hope that cloning bizarro people is not possible. But it probably is. Everything has so far been possible. So now we know why there's Soulless Joe. Soulless Joe walking around with ears that don't match. Chat, I got to stop. I'm going to get canceled on YouTube. I got to stop. Okay. Let's bring it down, guys. Okay. Then this one, I'm just going to read this whole part. This is the last of it. This is where it ends, but as if this wasn't enough, as if we haven't had enough Yahtzee moments, like the author of this paper just added a whole nother section, basically just to take shots at people that don't understand physics. And I read this and I'm just smiling reading this. Thus far, the focus has been on the possibility of non-local communication within the framework of standard quantum mechanics. However, even if non-local communication proves impossible in standard quantum mechanics, there could be another path to local non-communication. The no-signal theorems described in Part 3 are above based on the formalization of standard quantum mechanics. Such proofs become invalid if quantum mechanics is allowed to be slightly nonlinear, a technical term meaning that when quantum waves are superimposed, they may generate a small cross term not present in the standard formalization. Okay. I like those words. They're basically saying it turns out the standard math, Maxwell's equations aren't exactly right. That's what that's saying. They're saying they threw out the scalar potential. They threw out the scalar potential in Maxwell's equations. Whoops. Hello. Steven Weinberg, Nobel laureate for his theoretical work in unifying the electromagnetic and weak interactions, investigated a theory that introduces small nonlinear terms to standard quantum mechanics. The onset of nonlinear behavior is seen in other areas of physics. For example, laser light in certain media, he suggested, might also be present but unnoticed in quantum mechanics itself. Weinberg's nonlinear quantum mechanics subtly alters certain properties of standard theory, producing new physical effects that can be detected through price measurements. Joseph Polchinski published a paper demonstrating that Weinberg's nonlinear corrections upset the balance in quantum mechanics that prevents superluminal communication EPR experiments, superluminal communication used in EPR experiments. Through the new nonlinear effects, Separated measurements on the same quantum system begin to talk to one another. And faster than light and or backward in time signaling becomes possible. Polchinski describes such arrangements as a EPR telephone. Wow.
This is an audience in Budapest applauding after a performance. But what happens next is completely spontaneous. They're not being instructed by anyone. See if you can spot the phase transition.
Who gets it? Who gets it and who doesn't get it? Why is there spontaneous phase conjugation? Why does that happen? Why, when people are just clapping, all of a sudden everybody just begins to clap in phase? It's almost like the 2 points are talking to each other. I think that what is so amazing about this to me, this claim right here, this EPR telephone claim, is that it takes the idea that we are producing the entanglement to its extreme. It says, no, we're not producing the entanglement from the emitter. The laser beam emitter or the electron emitter is not producing the entanglement. The entanglement is something that's a property of nature. We can cause these two locations to be entangled at will, cause the entanglement to occur at will. Causing the entanglement to occur at will is exactly what we're looking for here. And that would then open the door to all forms of communication, or, faster than light communication. Now, again, the big question is, what happens? And will the universe correct for itself? Does the universe have an auto-correction mechanism? If you want to know more about that, check out my past live streams where I dig into faster than light travel, and I give my theory that it's crazy that I'm reading it here, that I think that there's going to be a speed limit of instantaneous transmission, that instantaneous transmission will be the speed limit. But I also think this is the thing I'm most likely to be wrong about. And it's crazy that this paper basically laid it out in 2010, 15 years before I came to that conclusion, and says that the only way we're going to figure this out is through experimentation. The Weinberg-Polchinski work had implications that are devastating for the Copenhagen interpretation's representation of the wave function as observer knowledge. The wave function is not observer knowledge. The wave function is not the fake part. The particle part's the fake part of the double slit experiment. People are now trying to come up with these insane, literally insane interpretations that there's no waves and it's all particles. It's the exact opposite. Everything is waves. Everything is waves. General relativity shows everything is waves. Einstein was right. He just wasn't right about the photon. Polchinski has shown that a tiny nonlinear modification transforms the hidden non-locality of standard quantum mechanics formalization into a manifest property that can be used for non-local observer-to-observer communication. This is completely inconsistent with the Copenhagen interpretation's knowledge interpretation. This is devastating for black hole theory. This idea that black holes are taking matter in and annihilating it or whatever they think, complete bullshit. Basically what that says, there's a white hole on the other side of every black hole. You have to have conservation. Conservation must happen. You're not just like the information is being stored on the, in the wave. No. Get away with realism. Get away with everything being a physical thing. We are going straight into everything is metaphysical. Everything is waves. I'm not really here at all. I'm over there. I'm there. I'm everywhere all at the same time. This is wild. Whew. So Weinberg's experimental predictions have led to a large number of experimental tests that have searched for the predicted effects. Regrettably, all such experimental attempts to observe the nonlinear effects have failed, producing only very low upper limits. Apparently, if there are nonlinear effects that modify the quantum formalization, they are extremely small in Earth-based laboratories. These negative results, though, are not surprising, because the atomic transitions used involve only a few electronvolts of energy. If quantum mechanics does have nonlinear properties, it does, they would be expected to depend on mass energy and appear only at very high energy scales, particularly the highest energy densities or in very high gravitational fields. Chat, what is the Gershenstein effect? Look at me, quoting random effects that I didn't know anything about a year ago. Oh, the Gershenstein effect. If you have extremely high voltages, was it what? In fact, do I have it? I think I have the video. Oh, I don't know how to spell it. Oh, crap. I had a video somewhere. If you get extremely high voltages, you begin to see the electromagnetic fields change. They go from being transverse to being scalar. So it turns out we already have experiment that shows it. Yeah, I have the video somewhere, but I can't. I just thought of it now, and I don't remember what I named it, unfortunately. So I'll have to dig for that. But so, and what's the other person? Who else said that maybe we need to have very high energy levels to see nonlinear effects in the quantum fluctuations of the space-time vacuum? Oh, Dr. Salvatore Pais, U.S. Navy engineer. Dr. Salvatore Pais was the one who said, we need to hit the Schwinger limit. We need our electromagnetic energy density to be so high that we hit the Schwinger limit. And when we do that, what happens? What did Elia Prigogine say? We get nonlinear effects. Nonlinear thermodynamics, chat. There you go. It's not surprising that we have struggled to find Tesla's science, because it requires certain conditions to be met that are not easily achievable in our low entropy world that we live in. The amount of energy that you and I are using is infinitesimally small. You have to get to a certain level of energy density before you begin to see these nonlinear effects happen. That's why we're seeing 3 orbs spinning around the plane, coming together and creating this bzz, zap. You need this massive energy density, but they found a way to do it at a relatively low energy cost. God, I love this paper so much, chat. Okay. Where did it say? Oh, yeah. However, emerging work from quantum gravity offers the possibility of an explicitly nonlinear form of quantum mechanics that reduces to nonlinear quantum mechanics in the limiting case of weak or no gravity. Using the wave picture, it is possible to formulate a Laplace-Beltrami wave equation for gravitationally curved space. The operator on the left-hand side contains information about the space-time geometry and operates on the wave function. On the right-hand side is the same term found in the flat space Klein-Gordon wave function. In flat space with no gravity, this curved space equation reduces to the Klein-Gordon wave equation, but in curved space, it is nonlinear in a way that could facilitate non-local communication. Thus, in an environment where strong space curvature is expected, for example, in the vicinity of a neutron star or black hole, sufficient quantum nonlinearity may exist to facilitate non-local communication. Wow. We are looking at a real black hole, a real one, not something you read in a book, a black hole in real life. A real black hole is this. This is a real black hole that has enough electromagnetic energy density to cause space-time to go nonlinear and for faster than light communication or travel to become possible. That's it. I'm going to read it again while I've got this up. So basically, they've just straight up solved it. What they're saying right here is that you can produce this equation to figure out what you would need to do to curve space-time in this way. On the left-hand side, you've got the Lapacci-Beltrami equation, and on the right-hand side, you've got the Klein-Gordon. Where those two things meet, you can find the calculations and determine what you need to do to create a hole in space-time between 2 points. Yeah, this breaks everything we know about black holes. Like, guaranteed Nobel Prize, no question. I mean, Hawking won a Nobel Prize for Hawking radiation. This is like 1,000 times more important than that. This is beyond the Nobel Prize. Like, we're talking, this is going to break the physics community. That's a real black hole being produced by a massive electromagnetic pulse, literally creating a gravitational ripple, a scalar longitudinal standing wave in the medium. That's why it looks so weird. They've caused the Gershenstein effect to occur. They've broken the Schwinger limit and made space-time nonlinear. They created a wormhole. They created a wormhole. They did one of these. You're looking at it right there. This paper just explains all of it. The paper that we were looking at just explains like how they figured it out, what the challenges were for them figuring it out. And the big challenge, just to summarize, was they just got around the problem of going to the past. They're just not going to the past. You're like, well, how do we get around reverse time travel? We just don't. We just set up our system in a way where we don't even allow it to go to the past. We build the system in a way, because we control all the variables, where there's no retrocausality. We just create a closed loop teleportation protocol. The closed loop teleportation protocol ensures that you never go faster than instantaneous transmission. How insane is this that I'm even saying this? They created a closed loop teleportation protocol that ensures there's no retrocausality or reverse time travel. And it might not even be possible to begin with. The universe, this paper also says that the universe may just step in and like the 0 point energy may just manifestly increase to create more inertia if you try to have retrocausality occur. I mean, the universe is watching. We know that from the double slit experiment. The universe is watching. That's what it looks like. So who knows? Maybe it is. And maybe the answer is the double slit experiment. As I said at the beginning, maybe the speed limit, maybe that is what we're seeing in the double slit experiment. The reason why we see the wave function break down is that weird magic that happens is nature saying, nope, you're not going to break retrocausality. Sorry. Can't let you do that. Can't let you do that. Okay. So they can control and delay the signals to allow retrocausality. They created a switch. They created a switch to turn on and off the decoherence and coherence. Actually, I hit all the points I wanted to hit here. So then the last bit, I'm just going to read the last bit again because this is just, it's ominous, I think. A little bit ominous. Where did it go? There it is. Ultimately, the question of whether non-local communication is possible is an experimental one. The issue should be resolvable by testing for non-local communication and observing what experimental limits appear. In particular, are the limits of coherence and entanglement complementarily, what word is that? Complementarity so severe as to preclude signaling? Currently, at least one experiment in progress aims to produce coincidence-free version of the experiment. We await the outcomes. Yeah, Eric Davis, I await the outcomes too, man. Absolutely wild, guys. So let me go through some donos. Let's start with the pill chat. Matt, thank you for the donation. What do you think Einstein would say if he saw the MH370 videos? Einstein, if he saw the MH370 videos, would say, I was right. Einstein would say, I was right. I was right about space-time. Space-time's a thing that we can manipulate, and we can create a wormhole. Einstein was right. Thank you, Raising Cane, for those gold pills, brother. Thank you very much. Appreciate you, man. Thank you, everybody in the Rumble chat as well. Hope you guys are doing great. And then let's get on to all these donations. We've got a lot to go through here. Let's do Chaotic Good. Thank you very much. Eve 6 is back. Wow, that's awesome. I'm a big Eve 6 fan. Thank you very much for the second dono. I appreciate you. Sooty, just sending some positive vibes. Thank you, Sooty, for those positive vibes. Appreciate you. Chaos Theory. Man, one of the few universal truths. Why are we being early bird special MFers? This man is saving humanity. 9 orbs to make a Stargate. Maybe we just keep adding up the orbs. The letter to Ashton Forbes did say that monostructures and then adding it to make another structure. So it really does make you wonder about how far we can go. And yes, we're definitely the early birds on this one. We're so far early on this one that everybody thinks we're crazy, which everybody thought Einstein was crazy too. Everybody thought Tesla was crazy as well. So I guess we're in pretty good company. David R. I've hired a retrocausal self as my chauffeur, and he does all my taxes. Not creepy at all. It reminds me of the Rick and Morty episode of the Night People. Like you have a night person version of yourself that does all your work for you. It's like, hey, freshman, you're the freshie. You got to go do the work. It's like, I was you before. Now I'm me. I really hope we don't have retrocausality. And then look at the reconsidered formula for chaos theory. Thank you. It doesn't violate anything. These are rules made up by silly people without multidimensional, non-linear time and space understanding. That's actually a really good way to put it. So they think of as time as this straight path from A to B, when it's not really a straight path from A to B. And they don't think of it as having this extra dimension that connects all points in space and time, because that's too not real for them. Which is crazy, because these are the same people that had to invent a bunch of fake things to make their view of cosmology work, like dark matter and dark energy, just as a couple examples. These are the same people that can't tell you where mass comes from. They can't tell you why things have mass. They can't tell you where gravity is. They can just tell you gravity is a curvature of space-time. Yeah, that's a self-referential explanation. Where does it come from? What causes it to exist? Why do we have inertia? Why can I not accelerate towards the speed of light? What are the answers? What's preventing me? What's stopping me from doing that? They would just say, well, it is. I just know that it is, but I can't explain why. These are the same people that would say that this is pseudoscience or that I don't know what I'm talking about. I tell you what, I just went through a 22-page, super in-depth quantum mechanics, faster than light communication paper over the last 2 hours. If you can do better, if you want to criticize and point out where I got anything wrong, please, because I'm just here to learn. Not salmon fish. Electrons and photons are the same. I call them mercurions. Dual slit solved by realizing that electrons are an abstract of an inside of a medium. Paradox math, no decay, liquid space. So what I will say is that, yes, I mean, first of all, I really hope people aren't out there saying, I invented this. I figured this out. No, you didn't. None of you did. None of you out there figured it out. Now, you might have also come to the same conclusion, but you're not the first person to figure it out. Probably many, many, many people figured it out all before us. Same reason why I'm not out there saying that I did it. But what's the old motto? When Mark Zuckerberg invented Facebook, he got sued by a bunch of people. And you know what his answer was? If you invented Facebook, you would have invented Facebook. That's how this is going to play out. Basically, the first person to make the working warp drive publicly, you get the credit. That's how this is going to play. Anybody else that says, I did the math, I did the equations. I literally have people send me every single day DM saying they're the ones who figured it out. Here's the math. I asked AI, I figured it out. Spoiler alert, none of you guys figured it out. It was people way before all of you. And if you want the credit, that's what, I mean, here you go. Race begins right now. Go. First person to go make an orb like those videos and fly it around, you're going to win a Nobel Prize. Guaranteed. Go for it. And that's why when people say, Ashton, why don't you go build something? Because I know how much work that is. Fuck all that. I'm not doing that. You're out of your mind if you think I'm going to do all that work. If you want to go do all that work, you can get the credit. If you don't want to go do all that work, but you want to try to take the credit because you said it on social media or something, sorry, ain't going to happen. Same with that Brian that Clemens guy. I've seen someone, I think it was actually, was it Chaotic Good where those posting that guy's patent earlier today? I already know who that guy is. And he's trying to like name the particle after himself and stuff like that. The guy's like is 10 years behind at least. If you do this with quantum fluctuations of space, you can easily engineer reality. Phase differences allow distance. Otherwise, there would be no contrast. Time wouldn't even exist. Yeah, if we think about everything in terms of waves, then we can think about them in phases and phase cancellation or phase conjugation. And that's what Terrence Howard, that's one of the things I strongly agree with him on, is this idea of phase conjugation. I just don't think he really understands. I think he conceptually understands it. He just can't articulate it. Chaotic Good. Okay, you're just kind of spamming the donos, but so I'm not going to do all of them. But thank you very much for these donos. I appreciate it. Sophia, if this tech exists and steer outcomes retroactively, not just talking quantum theory anymore, we're talking rewriting the thermodynamic arrow of time. We're not rewriting anything. That's just how it is. Time has never been linear. Time is never linear. You can go back all the way back to Einstein, and they were already showing from geometry that you can have non-linear time implications. So yeah. What stops that from unraveling causality itself? So this is the big question, Sophia. I'm glad you asked this. Thank you for asking. That's why this is a black pill moment. That's why this whole thing is a black pill moment. Because I started thinking about it, and if retrocausality is possible, time itself is going to unravel. How that looks, what that looks like, my imagination is that it looks like a black hole going off and all of us getting wiped out. Now you understand why I look at this technology as the end times. I really do. It's not even necessarily so much that we could create a black hole super weapon that wipes us all out. When we start manipulating time, we're just literally manipulating our entire reality. There's a very real possibility that we can manipulate our reality in very destructive ways that just cause everything to come apart. In fact, this reality is almost certainly a simulation that somebody else created as well. That's the biggest black pill moment ever. That's why I said at the beginning of this stream, you guys are probably wondering, why is Ashton acting all weird and black pilled? Because the more I learn about this, the more I don't even want to learn anymore. I kind of just want to live in ignorant bliss for a little while longer. Be like, you know what? Don't even tell me about the future humans. Don't tell me about the end of the world. Don't tell me about how we know it's already going to happen and we know when it's going to happen because we're being told from the future. Don't tell me about when the annihilation of the planet's going to happen. I just kind of want to pretend like I don't know anything anymore for a little while. Plug me back into the Matrix. Give me that steak. It's delicious. I don't care if it's fake. It's still delicious as hell. Even if this is a simulation, the decisions that we are making in this simulation are still real decisions that we are making. Whew. Plasma pill it. Yeah, 2027 chat. Or 2035. 2027 or 2035. And if that doesn't work, 2047. Maybe. Yeah, no paradoxes. There could be, and yeah, so this is my view, is that if there are paradox issues, then it's just going to be a matter of shifting into realities like the multiverse. I could see that being a thing too. If so, then maybe this is the reality in which I expose all this stuff. Who knows? Levi, key example of relativity. Going backwards in time is still the future relative to you. You go back in time relative to the future. Yeah, this is where it all gets kind of confusing as well. So end of the day, we just have to see it happen. Thank you. I'm glad you are enjoying it. Goldilocks Zone. India Wars. Money for a pack of Dragon Ball Z cards. Does Dragon Ball make cards? I hope so. Maybe I'll get some. Thank you very much, India Wars. Appreciate you. Levi, entanglement equal phase locking. Hence the 4-orb or set of orbs. You trick the universe into not being able to tell the difference between the 2 points. Collapse one side and it pops out in the other. This is exactly what's happening. This is exactly what I think is happening. When the orbs are spinning around the plane, they're phase locking it to the last location. And they are achieving, they're using them as pump waves exactly as what was described. In fact, I missed this part of the paper, but the paper describes using pump waves to impact these effects. So they're using these pump waves to create this entanglement. And then when you see the pop happen, yes, it collapses it down to a wave function and tricks the universe into thinking the plane is over here somewhere else. It's an optical illusion in that sense. And then it pops up in the area in which, you entangled it to. Infinite improbability drive. Yes. Yowza. Wow. Thank you for that huge donation. Please explain the coincidence-free conclusion from the paper. Yes. So the coincidence-free conclusion, I was actually struggling with this as well because it actually didn't give an explanation of it. My understanding of it was that, like what I was talking about, like the emitter is not creating the entanglement. So it's not just like a coincidence, is that we can actually cause it to happen at any points in space and time. It's not just that it turns out that this point right here is somehow magically connected to this point. It's not a coincidence. It's a situation in which we can control it, actively control the phenomenon that's happening. That's how I think of it, is that the coincidence free for me is saying that there really is this ether of energy that's causing these non-local effects. It's not just, it was just random that every once in a while when I do something, you see this exact same thing happen up over here. It's a real effect that can't be explained by classical physics. So hopefully that answers your question, Yowza. If not, take a look in the chat. There's a lot of smart people that can assist. Fizzy Soda, thank you very much for that. Retrocausality may exist. If it does, we will have no way of confirming it. If you send info to the past, it goes to the past in a different timeline. And this is the problem. Because if that's true, how would you know that? How would we know that? Well, I guess we could teleport a plane and then we can figure out where it goes or if it shows back up again. That's why I want to see the videos on the other side, because that will tell us if that plane showed up here, and it will tell us if it was instant transmission, retrocausal transmission, or future transmission, like they went to the future. All of those are possible. And the answer to those questions, or if the plane just doesn't show up at all, like a few pieces of the plane just show up, all of those questions will tell us what's the answer to the faster than light situation. From this, though, I think we can make some pretty safe conclusions. Faster than light communication is definitely possible. They've created a way they can use switches. So if you can create a switching situation, then you can use that as Morse code, right? Beep, 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 beep. The time interval of the switch could be used as a Morse code signal. So in that situation, we don't even need to worry about the issue of knowing what the polarization or whatever is. We don't care about the polarization. We're just literally switching on and off the decoherence. So it's like sending Morse code through the ether to any point you want, any other location that's entangled. Quite astonishing, everybody. And then Filter Dog sent the can in the pill chat. Thank you guys in those pill chat. You guys are on fire. Okay, guys, I think that's enough for tonight. And then a big shout out once again to Chaotic Good. You did a bunch of donos tonight. Just want to shout you out. I like your content. Make sure you guys are checking her out on Twitter. She's got good content and does science as well. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the live stream tonight. I hope you enjoyed the science and explanation double slit experiment. The answer is everything is waves. Everything is waves, and we're interacting with that medium because we are also waves interacting with that medium all the time. The wave function may break down because that may be the speed limit. That may be the answer to how to prevent non-locality or retrocausality. That may be the answer to how to prevent retrocausality. Or retrocausality is at least experimentally should be possible, according to what we looked at today. The question is, will the universe step in and correct itself and prevent it from happening? Or will we disrupt the timeline? Or will we skip or jump into parallel universes when we do it? I don't know the answer to that, but I'll tell you this. Before I die, we will find the answer. Maybe I shouldn't phrase it like that. Before I die of natural causes at the age of 150, we will find out the answer to whether or not we can retrocausally teleport. Thank you guys, MH370X. I love you guys. Have a great evening. Peace out, everyone.
In the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes Wormholes connect distant points in space. Traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight. Just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
Thin shell formalism plates so fine. Spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Forces balancing the plate, creating the throat, open the gates, from Earth to the stars in a single bound, a shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread.
We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crunk shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear. Explore